So if we don't want to talk about veterans now, you want to talk about everything else, I'd like to hear from CNN as the veteran cabinet secretary why CNN seems to have a problem with veterans.
Oh boy, CNN has just been accused of hating veterans live on national television for the whole world to see. So in this video, we will be going over the most recent CNN meltdown of being accused of hating veterans. I think you're going to enjoy this one because it gets pretty intense. Now before we start the video, please like the video. It's the #1 way you can help this channel, and it helps others, veterans, see the videos as well. Let us begin.
Do you believe that a mistake was made here, though, to have this conversation, to add a reporter, and to have it on an unsupported, classified group setting?
Caitlin, as I've just told you, I've just answered the question. I wasn't part of it. And, I'm not going to speculate more than what the president's already talked about and those who've been involved have talked about. But we'd love to talk about the veterans.
Yeah, and I do have questions about the veterans, but given what we saw with the group chat and how this was used, you are a member of the cabinet. You obviously know these other members, several of them who were in there. Is this typical for the cabinet to have conversations over Signal? Is this something that you use?
All right, so you're probably sitting here like, hey, I just got clickbaited. Where's the veterans? That's the whole point. CNN brought on the Secretary of the VA to talk about veterans, and then it all got changed on him to talk about the classified information that was talked about. We are on day 3 of talking about this news story, and everyone is already forgetting about it. Everyone is moving on, but the Secretary of the VA realized what is happening, and he's had enough.
All right. Well, Caitlin, since you undoubtedly do not want to talk about the VA, I have a question as VA Secretary. As Cabinet, I want to ask you, because I've been curious about this, because my job is to take care of veterans, and I would like to know why CNN is hostile to veterans, especially one in Florida, where you just had a $5 million defamation suit taking offense at a veteran who was trying to help people. In fact, one of your employees actually said, we're going to nail him. I have a question for you, Caitlin. Is that employee still employed? Are you really concerned about veterans? So if we don't want to talk about veterans now, you want to talk about everything else, I'd like to hear from CNN as the veteran cabinet secretary why CNN seems to have a problem with.
Now, this clip gets even more intense and actually quite comical, but I'll say this. Holy smokes, talk about the ultimate reversal, especially on a CNN interview where supposedly we were supposed to talk about veterans, but really we were just using veterans, as always, to try and talk crap about the Republican Party. But I'll let this interview continue, and I'll let you guys leave your comments down below how you feel about this, and then we'll actually see what is this defamation suit all about.
Well, Mr. Secretary, respectfully, my question was about whether or not you as a member of the cabinet use this. And respectfully, I'm conducting the investigation. And I do have a lot of questions for you on Veterans Affairs, but I don't think it would be unwarranted to ask
what you want to do is talk about a subject that I've already answered. And if you want to continue this like this, that's fine. But there are VA employees who are working very hard. There are veterans who get their care from the VA and they get their benefits from the VA. And it does me no good to speculate on something that I've already asked and answered. So I've asked and answered your question. Why don't you answer mine? Is this person still employed who said they were going to nail one of my veterans, who you had to do a $5 million award from a jury because of defamation, and then you settled the case? Answer my question.
Respectfully, sir, I'm asking the questions here, and I have no involvement in referencing there. But if you don't want to answer the question...
I mean, with the double reversal from the Secretary of the VA, I don't know if you caught it. He said at the very end, no, now I'm conducting the investigation. Look, this is like the ultimate cop-out. Whenever an interviewer says, look, I'm asking the questions respectfully, I don't have to answer your questions. Is this a legitimate interview or not? And I really think this is why people like Caitlin Collins, no offense, very recently, I mean, she's been called out for her sense of being actually genuine and asking questions with Donald Trump, and now in this particular interview that's actually going rather viral, especially on X and other platforms. How genuine was this interview when you're sitting there saying, look, I'm not going to answer your questions because now I'm conducting an investigation? The Secretary of Defense is very busy right now. He doesn't need to be investigated by Caitlin Collins on CNN.
One on a follow-up on something you just said, but since we have these messages released and you said that the president has now personally reviewed them, at the chat at one point Pete Hegseth wrote 1415 strike drones on target, and in all caps he said this is when the first bombs will definitely drop. Does the president feel that he was misled by his national security advisors, whoever it was that told him there was no classified information in there, now that he's seen these messages?
I've now been asked and answered this question 3 times by the both of you, and I've given you my answer. The president feels the same today as he did yesterday.
Okay,
Philip.
and on my follow-up on what you had just said.
Go ahead, Philip.
Caitlin,
I'm not taking your follow-up.
I have a follow-up on something you just said, though, Caroline. That's
Caitlin,
regarding
I'm not
Jeffrey
taking
Goldsberg.
your follow-up. Philip, go ahead. I have called on you.
Now, that question was a day before this interview, and the reason why I'm playing that is to show you Caitlin Collins got an answer directly from the ultimate source, the White House, as far as the position of these leaks, if you want to call it a leak, and talking about Pete Hegseth and all of this. So once again, this doesn't look too good for Caitlin Collins, and the fact that she didn't have an answer as far as does CNN actually support veterans or do they oppose them, considering you just lost a defamation suit.
A correction. In November, we ran a story about Afghans desperate to flee the country who face paying high sums beyond the reach of average Afghans. The story included a lead-in and banner throughout the story that referenced a black market. The use of the term black market in the story was an error. The story included reporting on Zachary Young, a private operator who had been contacted by family members of Afghans trying to flee the country. We did not intend to suggest that Mr. Young participated in a black market. We regret the error, and to Mr. Young, we apologize.
Okay, so I think it's important you guys have some context. That veteran went through a lot, and that's why I think the Secretary of Defense kept pressing CNN and Caitlin Collins asking, do you really like veterans if you were willing to drag out a case from 2021 up to 2025 as far as the beginning of the defamation on the veteran, and then in 2022 apologizing for what they said, and then, so on. Again, the case was settled in 2025 in January, but everything started in 21. We'll never know if the Secretary of the VA always intended to go on CNN and bring this up, but what we do know is we have enough evidence to know that Zachary Young, who won the $5 million, the Navy veteran, he went through a lot as far as battling CNN in the courts and trying to prove his case.
13 service members' families, the time of
bullshit,
day.
Dude.
The time of day.
I'm sorry, but Donald Trump hates veterans. He called them suckers and losers. He did. He absolutely, despite, he has his whole life. He has his entire life.
I know you're super emotional. I just.
Of course I am. I'm terrified.
I'm telling you, the political reality is that when they made that decision.
It doesn't matter, but you don't admit that Donald Trump hates veterans. You don't admit it. You deny a man, Chief John Kelly, a Marine. You say he lied.
You're still campaigning.
You say he lied. It's not over. It'll never be over. It'll never be over. You wish.
Now, I think you'll find this rather interesting, and now we are in a full circle here, because that clip is from November of 2024, and check out this very recent clip. This is the clip and segment before the blowout with the Secretary of the VA. Check this out.
Back to calls for firings that I've heard from the White House and from Republicans is, well, when the Afghanistan pullout happened, and obviously service members lost their lives during the pullout from that airport, they said no one in the Biden administration was fired, not the National Security Advisor, not the Defense Secretary. What would you say to that?
What I would say is that all these cases need to be looked at. We need to hold people accountable for their failures in leadership, no matter what administration is. This is an intentional failure of treating confidential information like...
What did you make of the VA secretary?
Ridiculous.
Now, in this next clip, I'm going to show you that even from CNN, Americans are just not buying the talking points from Democrats. The majority of Americans actually have a favorability on the Republican side.
They are all, I have to say, Democrats, call your office. We're March Madness times. Terrible, 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 to quote the great Charles Barkley. View Democratic Party favorably. CNN SRS, look at this, 29%. NBC News, you want to go lower than that? How about 27%? Both are record lows. The lowest going back to 1992 in CNN polling. The lowest going back on record to 1990 in NBC News polling. The majority of Americans hold an unfavorable or negative view of the Democratic Party at this point. All I can say is I'm a big fan of the oldies, so I'm going to quote Chubby Checker, how low can you go?
Nice. Well done. With that, what about congressional Democrats specifically?
Yeah, what about congressional Democrats specifically? You think these numbers are low? How about this one? Holy Toledo. Voters' views of the Democrats in Congress among all voters disapprove, 68%. And look at the approved number, just 21%, even lower than the Democratic Party at large. This is the lowest on record for Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University polling. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to this side of the screen. We'll look how Democratic voters feel. Get this. The plurality of Democratic voters disapprove of Democrats in Congress at 49%, and just 40% approve. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Oh, my goodness gracious, you just can't get worse than these numbers.
And this is the number right here really driving all of this. If Democratic voters have turned on Democrats in Congress and the Democratic Party, that's what puts the numbers at historic lows. What is it they want to be seeing, these voters?
What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. They don't like what's coming out of some of those Senate Democrats like Chuck Schumer, because take a look at the direction of the party. Democratic voters on Democrats in Congress doing too little to oppose Donald Trump. Look at this. 77% should stay principled, even if it means nothing gets done in Washington, D.C. 65%. And this 65% is such a difference from where we were in 2017 at this point, when just 33% of Democrats say they should stay principled, compared to 59% who said they want to compromise. Democrats do not want compromise at this point. They want a fighter. They want to go into the ring like Muhammad Ali did against Sonny Liston. They want to take down the Republicans. They do not want this compromise anymore. They want to be more like Republicans, get up to that stage and fight. And right now they feel like their leaders in Congress are simply put not doing so. And that is why their approval rating for congressional Democrats is at an all-time low, even among Democrats with more disapproving than approving.
Yeah, it seems that these Senate Democrats, some of them are banking on the idea that there is still a political middle, as it were. We will see. We will see.
But we will see if there's a political middle, but at this point, count me skeptical that that is at least what the Democratic base wants at this point. It's going to be very interesting, John, to see moving forward whether or not there are any repercussions come 2026, because I bet there may be some coming.
Harry M., thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
Sarah?
I feel like the most shocking part of that was how you dipped down and you were able to get back up without hearing any creaking or cracking. Nice to be young, isn't it, Harry?
It is very nice to be young. A good vacation goes a long way.
All right, if you are still watching this video, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for everything. Thank you for being here. I hope you learned something. I hope you got a good laugh, and God bless. We'll see you guys later.